Hi everyone, what a delight to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us and congratulations to everyone from Melbourne. Nice to know that you have a little bit of freedom back now. You can join your Sydney colleagues with a little bit more freedom. Congratulations, that's super exciting news. I am so excited about today's session in partnership with Westpac's Ruby Connection. My name is Meggie Palmer and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called PepTalkHer. And we're on a mission to close the gender pay gap. And it's such a delight every month to see all of your smiling faces and to have these fabulous guests here to tackle conversations that really impact small businesses and in particular women and the finances and the financial decisions that we're making in our business. So listen, we're going to jump off into this conversation in just a moment. If you've got questions, send them through to us in the chat, but I'm going to hand it over to Kira McClelland from Westpac to kick us off for today's event.
Thank you so much, Meggie. I'm so delighted that we can bring another additional session to you all this month. And in particular, as we do come out of those lockdowns, as you mentioned, Meggie, across the country, welcome back. This is a wonderful, wonderful time and stay safe. I am the Senior Manager of Women's Markets at Westpac and I also run Ruby Connection. As many of you know, there's some newbies on this call today, but Ruby is focused on discussing the issues that women are talking about, in particular, building financial confidence and really creating that life that you desire. And this week, we're talking all things small business and kickstarting to success post this lockdown. It's been rough. It's been a rough 18 months plus for all of us, but in particular, small businesses. And so we think this session is going to be a fantastic conversation with our experts, Susan Poric and Kira Simmons, who are going to deep dive into some of the ways that you can implement some really great strategies to help you get there. So without further ado, I'll hand back to you, Meggie.
Thank you so much, Kira. I so appreciate you. And a huge welcome to Kira Simmons and also Susan Poric from Westpac. Thanks for joining us today, ladies. Really excited to kick off the session. Kira, I'm going to get you Kira Simmons, because I know there's two Kiras today. Kira Simmons, tweet-sized introduction. How do you describe yourselves to people? Because you've had an amazing career, and you have joined the Morse Group, I guess, a little under 10 years ago now, with an amazing background in accounting and finance. Can you give our audience a quick background about you so that they know what questions to send your way for today's session as well?
So I guess I would say closer to 20 years now, as much as I might like to say I'm closer to 10.
My maths is terrible. Sorry. Yeah, you're quite right. 20 years.
So I'm an accountant and tax agent. So anything from compliance, obviously, to business advice, and then obviously work with a lot of clients who are small to medium-sized businesses in range of industries. So see all manner of things and happy to be involved with all types of clients.
Awesome. And sorry, I should have said you've been a partner for close on 10 years. So that was a faux pas on my part. It's so exciting to have you here. And I've got a lot of questions for you. If you're joining us today and you've got questions, please pop them in the chat and we will get to those as soon as we can. You can send them directly to me if you'd like to stay anonymous. Otherwise, just pop them in the general chat and we'll come to you as well. And Susan, thanks for joining us. It's awesome to see you here as well today. Can you give us a quick background on you and your career as well?
Sure, thanks for having me. So I've been with Westpac for nearly 20 years myself. So I've been a business banker, leader in, both small, medium, commercial size businesses. But also I'm a business owner myself with my husband. So I can absolutely relate to a lot of business owners out there who have done it tough for the last couple of years. And, we've I guess, seeing the ups and downs of what this environment can do personally and for our business as well. So hopefully, with the introduction of the newly expanded SME recovery loan scheme that the government brought out earlier this month, I can hopefully give you some insights as to how this loan can be used for your businesses to not only just stay afloat, but take the opportunities that are presenting themselves at the moment to grow and expand and do all the things that you've been planning on and bring those plans forward a bit.
Absolutely. So listen, let's jump into it, Susan, because you mentioned the small and medium enterprise recovery loan that is available. Can you give us top line, what is it, who's eligible, how does it work?
Sure. So at high level, and obviously, you know, I do absolutely recommend that everyone on this call speak to your business banker, because you do want to check that your business is eligible. But at high level, you know, it's for businesses with turnovers of less than $250 million with an active ABN. If you've been adversely economically impacted by the COVID pandemic, then basically that's who the funding is for. It's where the government is guaranteeing 80% of the funds. And that doesn't mean you can only borrow 80% of what you're wanting to borrow it for. You can borrow 100%, but that's what the guarantee is for the financier, in this case, you know, Westpac or other banks. The funding can be used for many different ways. It has to be for business purposes though, so you can't use it to purchase, say, residential property. There are other limitations, but I'll go through just probably the 4 key purposes that you could use it for, which I think it's really exciting. The common misconcept of this loan out there is that it's only to just, you know, get you through the tough times. It's actually not. We're hearing really exciting ways that our customers are using this loan. And some of the businesses are looking to actually expand. So they might have been looking at some, you know, new sites for their retail. They could be looking at purchasing additional equipment or vessels, you know, let's say in Hamilton Island, you know, which is very, very popular at the moment in Queensland because we can still travel, lucky us. You know, you might be wanting to purchase additional vessels that you're hiring out. You might be looking to renovate your, you know, business premises because, you know, when the doors open, things will be just perfect and, you know, your business will come back to good. So those, you know, different ways. You can also, of course, use it to help you with your working capital. So while your revenue is down and JobKeeper has now finished, if you need to sustain your really important employees that, you will need when the doors open again, you know, it could be your rental expense, because we've invested a lot of money into our businesses to get it up and running. And a lot of us have had it for many years. To let it just go down the drain because we can't sustain the simple working capital, you know, while we wait for things to return to normal. That's what you could also use it for. If you're wanting to purchase the premises you're in for your business, you want to make it your own, you can absolutely use it for that as well.
So this is exciting. I mean, this is a great opportunity. And by the way, if you have already applied for this loan, if it's something that you're thinking about, please let us know in the chat, because there's probably things we can learn from all of you here today as well. Kira, you know, listening to Susan speak, this is an exciting opportunity. From your perspective, you know, I know today we're talking about how can we ensure that we keep our business afloat despite what's happened the past 18 months. What about, like, what are some of the things that you think about with your financial hat on in terms of a financial health check? When is the right time to be applying for these sorts of things? When do you need that much capital? Like, how should people be thinking about that when they consider applying for these sorts of things?
From an accountant's perspective, I think the first thing they need to do is know where their business sits now. So know right now what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, or where they sit in comparison to where they want to be. So start with a starting point, you know, take the financials, your most recent financials with your accountant, look at some of the ratios like liquidity, solvency, profitability, and then there'll be goals and, you know, things that they're wanting to do or areas they're wanting to develop in. It's the perfect opportunity to look at these sorts of things as the time to then have the capacity to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And making sure that you're across the finances. And by the way, I personally hate finances. I hate that part of my business. I enjoy growing a business. And I know, you know, Kira and Susan, you know, you work in a business and basically, you know, you both, I know, Susan, you've got your own company as well as working at Westpac, and Kira as a partner, you know, you run a part of the business where you work as well. It's not my zone of genius. And it's been interesting for me to realize I actually have to hire someone to help me with that. And Susan, do you hear this a lot from your clients, of people who kind of maybe get overwhelmed, even knowing what is this recovery loan? Like, And is it important for people to remember that there are support systems, banks, Westpac, the bankers that you can come and talk to who will help you work through these things?
Yeah, absolutely. When the pandemic hit, the first thing, I'm sharing a bit of my personal story here. And I know many, many business customers that we spoke to did the same thing. The first thing we did was to contact two people, and it was our bank and it was our accountant. Because it's a very fast changing environment and we couldn't keep up with it all. And I work for Westpac. This is, my bread and butter, and we found it quite difficult. And, emotions are running high as well. And, what we're good at is running a business, building it, growing it, Maggie, exactly like yourself, having people who could look at things, the facts, and understanding what we needed to get to where we needed to. It was probably the most important thing. And just having someone who was really close to all the changes that could give us the right advice really, cleared the way for us. So, don't hesitate. Sometimes we feel like as business owners, we need to have all the answers. We need to know what we should be doing, solve all the issues, but that's not the case. We have a great network. And sometimes my husband forgets what I do for a living. And, on the weekend, we got to get away to Hayman Island. And for the first time in many, many weeks, we actually sat down and had a conversation. And we were talking about, and I said, I'm doing this SME recovery loan talk, and he said, what's that? And then I proceeded to explain to him, and he said, so that'll be really great for when I want to build that second building. And I said, yes. So you need to talk to everyone around you, use your network. Absolutely.
And is this something, Kira, are there questions that you get a lot from your clients when they're thinking about, firstly staying afloat during COVID and then recalibrating given the current and the new world we live in, I guess? And then when we think about moving back into that position of thriving, right? Like if we can get through, if we can keep our cash flow and keep the business alive, are there certain questions, Kira, that you get asked a lot from clients, or is there any key advice that you have for everyone on the call today about, forecasting ahead of time, I guess, to keep the business afloat through the future as well?
A lot of the time, the contact that you'll get, that we see from a client, is them seeking reassurance for things that they already know. Like in a lot of cases, they know their business better than anybody else, but they're relying on their networks to get that reassurance, or, I guess our skills and knowledge to know that decisions that they're thinking about are sound. It's also one of the main things we've seen during the pandemic is the people that have their basics and their processes right have that advantage, or just that bit of extra security. And I'm talking things as simple as records up to date, or they've got systems where they're doing simple things like reconciling regularly. And it's really such basic things that they can do that just give that extra help when things like this happen.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking I need to do my reconciliation for last month, Kira. So you've given me a good reminder to put that back to the top of the to-do list. So I think what's really interesting, Kira, you talked about, wanting that reassurance. And I think that's so true. Often we don't know what we don't know. And so again, I would just urge everyone to reach out and have those conversations with your bookkeepers, accountants, and your people and your contact at your bank. If you don't have a contact at your bank, find one. The fabulous people like Susan are there to help. Susan, let's jump into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts about the loan. And if you've got questions, by the way, please let us know, and we would love to address those specifically for you. What do you think is the first thing people should think about, Susan? Should people be worried about taking on this loan as a form of debt? Is that how people should approach it? Or should we think about this as an opportunity to kind of future-proof our business going forward?
I think Kira had a really good point, right? So you know your business. So number one, if you're confident that you know and you can absolutely back yourself and your business, and you just need a little bit of breathing space, if that's what you need, then, the first thing, and Kira would know this better than anybody, do a forecast, a projection, have a look at your previous financials when things were normal. What is normal anymore? That's a whole nother different story. But have a look at what you think you can absolutely back your business to do. And, you know, as part of the eligibility and assessment criteria, we do the same. We back our customers and we absolutely want to understand where do they think they can get to, say in 12 months' time or in 6 months' time. And is that realistic based on what they've been able to achieve previously and what are the plans in place to get there? So I think you can look at it two ways. This is, you know, it could be a lifesaver. It could be an absolute huge opportunity now to grab with both hands, like a lot of our customers are doing, and going, you know what, this is the time to take advantage of a great offer that the Australian government, in conjunction with a few of the banks, to come out and say, we are going to support our small and medium enterprise businesses in Australia, inject some cash back into the economy. And we want these businesses to be there when things return to normal. And that is the, you know, the key. So I personally think it's a great opportunity, either way that you look at it. And absolutely talk to your accountant about what is realistic, but also, you know, your business banker should be able to have that conversation with you. Let's check what is a comfortable figure, what is a figure that can absolutely work within your cash flow and budget. The really great thing about this loan is there's a repayment holiday, if you like, for a whole year. So from 6 to 12 months. So the interest does still accrue and it will get added onto the overall loan. But what it means is once we open back up, you've got 6 or 12 months, whatever you choose, before you have to make 1 cent of repayment. So it gives you that breathing space, right? So it's not like you take a loan out today and you have to start making this huge repayments or, you know, whatever that you think, oh, currently I'm not even open yet. I can't commit to this repayment. We're looking ahead. Yeah. We're looking ahead with you.
Yeah, and it is, to your point, it can be a lifesaver for some people, right? I do want to point out as well, as I understand it, you need to apply by the end of this year, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? 31 December?
Yeah, so 31 December is the deadline. Different banks have applied different ways as to what that means. And obviously I can only speak for how we've interpreted it. We need to have the loan approved and document signed by the 31st of December. So I really wouldn't leave it too late. If anyone is thinking about it, coming up to the Christmas period, you know, a lot of people will go away, hopefully now that the borders are looking to be opened. So the earlier the better. You know, don't put it off if you are thinking about it, definitely.
Totally. And I know, like, as I understand it, again, you can borrow millions of dollars, up to $5 million. But if that seems a little extreme, which it does for me, actually $15,000 is the smallest with Westpac, right, Susan? So
yeah, 100%. And because it's a variable rate loan that we offer, you can pay back quicker. So if you borrowed, you know, 15,000 or 20,000 and you went, oh, you know what, I actually don't need all of that, it doesn't stop you from paying it back any earlier than you originally had planned. So that, you know, that gives you that flexibility. But, you know, because it is open to different sizes of businesses with turnover of up to 250 million, you know, $5 million per ABN is what's available. You know, you might actually go, you know what, that is the price of the commercial building I want to purchase. So yeah, it gives you that range.
Now, Kira, what about if people don't want to apply for this loan, but they still want to be clever business owners, they still want to future-proof their business? What's one thing that you would love to see everyone on this call start to think about over the weekend? They've got their newfound freedom, hopefully, if you're in Melbourne, and a shout out to anyone who is still in lockdown at the moment. But what's one thing you'd love people to take away, a practical tip that really they need to start thinking about or talk to some experts about in terms of thinking about what does the future look like financially for their business?
I think aside from obviously doing a health check and knowing where their business sits, I think making sure that they've got some sort of emergency fund or some way of putting something like that in place so that when the unexpected things happen, they've got a fallback position. So whether they're looking at doing that by building up their own savings or having, you know, whether it might be funding via a bank available if they need it, that's probably the one thing that I think have a rainy day fund would be one piece of advice.
Love a rainy day fund. Kira, do you typically have a percentage, or is there an amount that you typically recommend to clients that they should have for that rainy day fund?
It can vary business to business, but trying to sort of aim for, say, 3 months of expenses is a general sort of benchmark that's used.
Right.
That can really vary and sometimes might seem out of reach for some businesses, but certainly something to aim for.
Yeah, that's actually a great figure to keep in the back of your mind, isn't it? That ideally getting to that 3 month figure mark. Now, coming into the silly season, I know a lot of you are probably preparing for Black Friday sales and then going into Christmas, New Year's, all that kind of stuff. Kira, what are you advising your clients, maybe who work in more of the seasonal industries, who are thinking about having to staff up or get more inventory or product in, to sort of cope with the next 3 or 4 months, which we hope will be very busy for all of you? Again, Kira, any advice from your extensive experience that you think people should start to ruminate on as we move towards the holiday season?
I think it mainly around being able to leverage the opportunity as best they can. So have the stock available, have the staff available to try and, if anything, try and recover in what everyone was hoping will be a strong period. So and having that ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, that's great advice. That's great advice. And we would love to, and thank you to everyone who's been putting your business link in the chat. Let us know, what is your business? If you have your own business, if you work for a company, let us know in the chat. We would genuinely love to know where everyone is joining us from today. If you have a seasonal business and you have questions, let us know in the chat as well. We have these fabulous experts with their massive brains for another 10 minutes, which is wonderful. We love to keep these short and sharp because we know that your time is precious. Susan, when you think about, are there any sort of questions that come up a lot from your customers that sort of you'd like to pay forward? Or are there any questions that people are always asking you about future-proofing their business, or, how they can kind of level out some of those highs and lows of the cash flow that we all have in our businesses? Any advice that you find yourself giving over and over again that you want to impart to our audience today?
I think being able to, and this is probably similar to Kira, having a plan B is really important. I think looking ahead, that's what business owners are very good at. Sometimes we forget about plan B, the worst case scenario. And, having that little bit of buffer within your business because the ups and downs of the cash flow, it's part and parcel of a lot of the industries that we face. Retail's a typical one. And always allowing for a little bit of buffer absolutely helps. That doesn't have to be cash in the bank. It could be knowing that you've got certain facilities available in need. You can go to the bank. You might be, sort of building on your equity. Having different resources to be able to pull in, when things are unexpectedly tough.
Right.
And, I think that's something that I see a lot of businesses sort of maybe not think ahead too much of. Yeah.
Interesting. And Kira, I know that a lot of your clients are small and medium-sized businesses, family businesses, and even primary producers as well. So is there any advice that you would give to people today about pivoting when disaster strikes, or when there's a drought, or when the sales don't hit what you expected them to hit over the holiday seasons? What advice do you typically give to people about pivoting the different revenue streams that they have within their business?
I think a lot of it comes back to diversifying, but it's also similar to what Susan's saying, is being open-minded to take up opportunities when they present themselves. Something for farmers, for example, that might be really strong in one season might be really suffering in the next season, but then keeping reserves when they can, being ready to seize opportunities, and being, I guess, willing to take a calculated risk when they need to.
It's a good question that you, a good point that you raised there about having the cash reserves so that you can pounce if and when you need to, and kind of balancing that with growth, right? With investing in,
Yes.
it's that constant, we're always doing that juggle, aren't we? Lisa, Reshmi, Dee, Alinta, if you've got any questions, let us know. Would love to hear from you in the chat. I'd love to hear more about your businesses and if you've specifically got questions for Kira or Susan today. Before we wrap up today, Kira, obviously this year there's been, well, the last 18 months, we've had JobKeeper and access to different grants. Is this something that you want everyone on the call to keep front of mind in terms of what they're tracking, thinking about end of financial year next year as well, and just making sure everything adds up?
Definitely keeping your accounting records up to date. So having that basis is important because it gives you that quicker and easier access. I'd also say to people to be constantly keeping in touch with what grants are available, what things are out there, because they're changing all the time. And while a lot of what we've seen during COVID is coming to an end, there's still support available that it's important to be aware of and apply for when it's there.
Definitely, because who knows when we will get access to that support again in future. I totally agree with you, Kira. Susan, any final words from you? And by the way, if you have got questions, please pop them in the chat. We would love to take a few more questions. But Susan, any other final advice or practical tips that you'd like to see people taking to really make sure that they can thrive, not just survive, but thrive into the future?
I guess something I did want to share actually about the SME recovery loan earlier was there's a little bit of misconception out there where you think, oh, I haven't been able to pay my tax or my BAS because of the lockdowns and I've had really difficulty with my cash flow. You can actually look to use the funds to either finance the tax debt that you have, or it doesn't actually stop us from looking at the application with your tax debt as it is if you've got arrangements with ATO, which I know a lot of businesses do have. So, don't let certain things deter you, I guess, is my message, because there's so much information I couldn't possibly share on one call about, the different ways we look at the applications, different scenarios and businesses and what we're using the funds for. So don't assume, ask. Absolutely reach out to your bank and find out as much information as possible. Be open, have your financials ready to go, like Kira said, because that's the first thing that we will ask for to speed up the process.
And this is, Dee's just picked up on this as well. Don't assume. Ask the question. Don't assume you don't qualify. Maybe you're not turning over millions of dollars a year. Don't assume you don't qualify. Have the conversation. It's worth a 20-minute chat with someone from Susan's team, 100%. So why not? Kira, do you see a lot of clients are sometimes hesitant to maybe apply for certain grants? Is that something you see a lot? Yeah.
To be honest, I'd say we see it more often than we don't. That most people think that they won't be approved, or because of perhaps tax debt or other things that they don't ask, or they're scared to ask because they think they know the answer.
And I think, does that also apply, Kira, by the way, to the ATO as well? And having do you want to just quickly speak to that? Because I think sometimes we think, oh my gosh, the ATO is so scary, but actually they want to work with you, don't they?
Yeah, and it's not, in most cases, they're very happy to help or to put arrangements in place that are a lot more, I guess you would say, generous, for want of a better description, than the client's expecting. Most people will, in my experience, avoid it until it gets to a point where it becomes much harder to deal with or to find a solution. Whereas if they were just braver, I guess is the best way to put it, they would put their business in a lot better position and ask, because more often than not, the answer is yes, we can find a solution.
Yeah, that is really genuinely excellent advice, Kira. Ask the question, and I think again we sometimes think it's so scary because it's the ATO, and they're like, oh my gosh. But here's the thing: like ultimately, they want you to be able to pay your taxes because that's a better outcome than you going bankrupt. No one wants to see you go bankrupt, right? The ATO, not the banks. No one wants to see that. So have that conversation, and I think Kira and Susan both made this point earlier. Reach out sooner rather than later. So we know in this instance, the grant, you need to have applied by 31 December. Try to reach out a little bit earlier. People might be on holidays then. So give yourself a bit of runway. There might be paperwork that you need, so I know we all love a deadline, but let's try not to leave it to New Year's Eve. There is some great links in the chat, by the way, that gives you a lot of information. It really breaks it down in a simple way. So check that out. Kira and Susan are both on LinkedIn as well. And as always, Westpac's Ruby Connection has some fabulous resources on their website. So check it out. This is a community for you. It's here to support you in your business endeavors, in your financial endeavors. And a huge thank you to Kira McClelland and Felicity Duffy for their support of these conversations. We're so grateful. This has been a great conversation, ladies. And I hope that everyone's going to leave today, ready to apply. Why not? Or at least take a look. Take a look at the site. Chat to someone on your team, chat to a mentor or a business advisor, or just reach out to your bank and have a conversation. They might be able to say, listen, you don't qualify, no worries. Or they might say, absolutely, and this is what we could do for you, right? So I think have that conversation. And Kira and Susan, we're so grateful for you sharing your insights today. And Kira, so helpful to understand your perspectives on the financial lens and those conversations that you can also have with the ATO. I think that's important to remember as well. But just any final thoughts, Kira, before we wrap up for today?
No, nothing from me, not unless anyone has any questions.
If anyone, please pop them in the chat and check out the Morse group where Kira works. I've popped a link to her LinkedIn, and we'll pop the link to her company in the chat as well. Do check out their services. They're awesome. Susan, any final words from your perspective?
No, but thank you so much for having me today, and hopefully I was able to provide some, insightful information for people to take away. But yeah, we're absolutely here to help and get Australian businesses back on their feet.
This has been fabulous. Kira McClelland, any final words from your perspective today?
Oh, look, I think that's just been such a fantastic session, and I know it's there's a lot to digest, there's a lot to take away, and I'm also really mindful that there'll be lots of people watching the playback of this session. We know that you're out there running businesses, and time is very precious, so we really do appreciate you spending this time with us here. So by all means, play it back, share it with your friends, and just let people know, let women know that this is a really beautiful community, and we are here to help you build financial confidence and just do some really great stuff.
So exciting. And listen, if you have success applying for the loan, let us know. If you have a conversation with your accountant or with the ATO or your bookkeeper that's a bit of a light bulb moment, let us know. We are all on LinkedIn and we would love to hear from you. Please do stay in touch. We have another session for you next week, which will be wonderful as well. So keep an eye out for that. And we've got some really exciting sessions all the way till the end of this year. And we're already planning the 2022 programming, which will be awesome. So listen, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the rest of your day. And we will very much look forward to seeing you at the next Ruby Connection Lunch and Learn. My name's Meggie Palmer. It's been a delight. Thanks so much to our panelists, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thanks, everyone.